Hello, everyone. Hello, hello. Let me get adjusted here because I'm looking at the wrong thing right now. Welcome to this another edition of Nicole's View Live. We have been talking about this leaving Neverland garbage for the longest, and now we're at the point of trying to fight back, debunk this crap. And you guys know, once I get on a subject, I can't get off of it, especially when I know that it is false, fake, fraudulent news. So shout out to the chat room. So I have Miss Hughes on. Welcome, Miss Geraldine Hughes.
Hi, Nicole. Thank you for having me on.
So I have Miss Hughes. Oh, let me mute my mic. Welcome, Miss Geraldine. All right. So, Ms. Hughes, can you tell everyone about your background?
Yes, my name is Geraldine Hughes, and I'm the author of the book Redemption, The Truth Behind the Michael Jackson Child Molestation Allegation. I worked for the attorney in 1993, Barry Rothman, that framed Michael Jackson of the child molestation allegations.
Wow. Wow. So you saw all of this up front and personal.
I was inside the accuser's camp. So I not only saw, but I heard, and I was an eyewitness to the actual, this is not a child molestation allegation. This was an extortion scheme, and it was elaborate. That's why I call it an elaborate extortion scheme. The whole child molestation allegation was the way that Evan Chandler had designed to ruin Michael. If he didn't give him $20 million, he wanted $20 million to make a movie. And for a whole month, that's all he was negotiating with him about.
Wow. Were you the only legal secretary on this? Were there others?
He only had a legal secretary. There was a receptionist that was there. He had two attorneys, and that was pretty much his staff at the time during this whole allegation.
Wow. And how long did it take for this whole entire thing to come to an end, or from the beginning to the end?
I would say it started in 93. It started somewhere in the neighborhood of about, I would say around May. And it concluded, as everybody knows, it concluded with the settlement in January 94. So it went on for a minute, but when Evan finally came to Michael about with his accusation, or with his notion that, he was suspecting. It's not that he was suspecting. He just wanted Michael to know that he had an intention of bringing this out. That was a bargaining tool, because he was still trying to get $20 million to make a movie. A lot of people, Evan Chandler, he had a desire to be a filmmaker, because he actually was the one that caused that movie, Robin Hood Men in Tights. Mm-hmm. That movie was the gay version of Robin Hood. He brought the idea to Mel Brooks. Mel Brooks was the screenwriter. It was like a parody kind of thing. So Mel Brooks did the screenwrite, and he actually successfully made the movie. Maybe because Evan was only the one that brought the idea to him. He didn't really make the kind of money. So he kind of pretty much knew that the only way you're going to make some real money in the movie industry is you got to be the executive producer. But what I like to tell people is that the one that came up with the idea, the one that gave that idea to Evan Chandler, was Jordy. His son gave him that idea. This was before they met Michael Jackson.
Wow. Wow. And Evan Chandler was a dentist to the stars, correct?
Right. Yes. He was a well-known dentist. They said a dentist to the star. He had an office in Beverly Hills.
Right. Right. And if I'm correct, they met Michael through Michael's limousine breaking down. If I'm correct, I'm trying to remember. Right. And that's how they came into Michael's life initially.
Right. That's how Jordy met him. Evan wasn't there at the time. He was with June had remarried. She was married to David Schwartz, and he had a rent-a-car, and he received a phone call that Michael was on his way in to get a car because his car had broke down. A lot of people don't know Michael used to go out in regular cars just so he just wanted to be a part of human beings, regular, he would, I've heard a lot of reports where Michael was seen in just regular cars.
Right. Wow. Wow. At what point did you realize that this was basically a setup? What alarm started going off when you saw things? Or
There was a lot of things going on inside my attorney's office. I had been in the legal field for a number of years at that point, and it wasn't normal for there to be secrecy inside of a law firm. Usually, the ones that's privy to everything are the personnel, the people that work for the firm. You usually do billing, and so every case every phone call that the attorney is on, every case that he's working on through the billing process. And I knew that I had never seen any billing concerning this client, but he was on. It was the kind of thing where when Evan Chandler would call our office, no matter where Barry Rothman was at in the law firm, he'd always tell us to put the call on hold. And he would not take the call until he walked all the way back to his office, shut the door, and then he would take the call from Evan. He was the only client that he did that to. And I never saw any billing. So I kind of thought that was a little, I became alerted because I'm like, well, what is this relationship with this client that, he seems to be keeping, pretty high secret. It was he kept it even secret from the people that worked in the law office. So that was kind of, I kind of felt something was peculiar. I wasn't suspicious at that time. It wasn't until I was typing a document and it had Michael's name and I saw the name Michael Jackson, and I just typed the document, gave it to he still didn't tell me anything about the case. So I walked in and asked the lady attorney, I said, is this the Michael Jackson? And she told me it was the Michael Jackson. So I started kind of paying attention to this particular case from that point forward.
wow, wow. Did you hear actual conversations? I know you said he would go away and hush hush, but did you hear anything?
Yeah, they were really good at keeping it quiet and under wraps. And the more they kept it under wraps, the bigger my antenna got. I'm like, but when they finally launched the allegation, there was a lot going on prior to that. But when they finally launched the allegation, and I was in the conference room having lunch one day, watching TV, because that's where I would spend my lunch. And I saw the breaking news saying that investigators, that there was a report and that they were going after Michael for child molestation. And as I sat in that conference room listening to that report, I sat back in my chair and my first words was, oh my God, no, they didn't do this to him. I knew from the very beginning that they had set him up, that they had framed him. So prior to that, they were very good. They were good. They kept it under wraps, and there were still some things that happened prior to that let us know something was not right, to the point that I started making note in my calendar book. I keep a calendar book every year. And I started paying attention to people coming into the office meetings. And, I don't even know why I did that, because I didn't know at that point that they were what was really ultimately getting ready to happen. So something just had me noting my calendar book. I still have that 1993 calendar book, and it corroborates everything I'm saying. But what really did it was when the allegation was finally launched, they all became unglued. They didn't know. The media frenzy, our phones rang. We couldn't even answer our telephone anymore. It was the craziest thing anybody could ever encounter. And so they became unglued then, and they weren't as careful then. They weren't dotting the I's and crossing T's anymore. As a matter of fact, they were trying to find Evan wherever they could find him. The media was camped out at his dental office. They were camped out at his home. So the only place he knew to go was to my attorney's office. So he came with Jordy Chandler, and they literally camped out for like 3 days. My attorney made me work late, because they were typing documents and things. And that's where I was able to really know and to confirm in my heart that it wasn't Michael that had just done something wrong. They're the ones that had just done something wrong, and they were scrambling like crazy to make sure their stories were right, to make sure that they were moving strategically. It was, that a lot of that information, because we don't have enough time, and even in this interview, for me to tell you everything. I'm gonna try and give you something to go on, Nicole.
Okay.
But one of the things that I heard Evan say, now the conference room was right outside my desk, where I was sitting at my desk. I was able to hear, if they had the door open, I was able to hear. And one time, the Jordy kept coming back and forth. So one time he came out and he left the door open, and I heard Evan Chandler just blurt out. He said, "It's my ass that's in danger of going to prison here." He was, and I heard him, and I was like, wait a minute. I said, they just, I said, did I just hear what, and that just kind of confirmed to me that, you don't make that comment when you've been, when you're the guilt, when you're the innocent party. You make that comment when you're the perpetrator.
Exactly. That lets you know you're up to something. And that was going to be my next question. Did you ever see them come in and out of the office? So
right.
They were camped out there. Wow.
Yeah, they came and literally spent 3 days in my attorney's office. And something else, Evan was at odds with June regarding the custody battle over Jordy. And all of a sudden, all of them came and met behind closed. June and David Schwartz came. They were all now behind closed doors, and they were meeting together. They were no longer, I heard reports later that June never bought that story that Michael had abused Jordy. She told Evan he was crazy. And but now all of a sudden it seemed like she switched somewhere. But I know for a fact that she was meeting behind closed doors with them in my attorney's office right around the time that she switched.
Mm-hmm. So she switched once they started seeing money and
I think that's what switches a lot. Didn't that just switch Wade and Jimmy in the whole money theory? Yeah, money switches people,
Right. Absolutely. And I want you to speak to this mockumentary. You actually went to Utah to the Sundance Film Festival. Can you tell the audience your experience with that and your thoughts on that?
When I heard that it was coming out, and I heard that it was going to be at Sundance, I went, and my reason for going had nothing to do with, let me, whether they could convince me. I'm convinced that Michael is innocent. Mm-hmm. Because I saw the extortion scheme that launched this false allegation. Prior to 1993, there were no allegations against Michael Jackson. So it started in 1993. And I just went to go see what they had to say. That was my main issue, to go see what they had to say. It had nothing to do with, they couldn't convince me maybe if they had real proof, which they didn't. It was just their word, but I was convinced, I'm totally convinced that Michael was not a child molester, and that settles it for me. So I was more curious to hear what they had to say. So I went, and that was my purpose for going. And it was just really interesting. This whole journey that I have been on, even just being in the attorney's office. When you read my book, you find out that Barry Rothman was a very horrible man. He was that horrible just to work with. He really made life miserable for anyone around him. And the fact that not only that I worked for him, but that I actually stayed employed with him through all of this, I felt like it was a God something, I said, because normally I wouldn't have done that. And so everything concerning this journey about writing, even getting the idea to write the book, and then never have thought to write one. And I said, well, God, if this is you got to show me. And God led me through the whole process. I have seen God in this process all along, but he's always been on Michael's side. So when I went to Sundance, I didn't even have a ticket. I was like, I'm going, that settles it. I got an airplane ticket. That was the only ticket I did have. I got a room and I got to rent a car. I said, I don't know how this is going to happen, but I'm going. I need to see that documentary. And I got there. Somebody even told me, they said, well, if you want to get in, you got to get in a line. You got to get there like 3-4 hours in advance. I got there 15 minutes before showing.
Got in there.
And then they said, you get in this line where if you don't have a ticket, you get in this one line, you might could get in. I asked the lady to show me that line. That line was wrapped around the building, okay? I said, no, I don't want to get in that line. So
Wow.
I got in line with the people that had tickets. And it was so funny because a guy walked up behind me and I asked him, I said, so how did you get your ticket? And the guy said, he said, I take it you don't have a ticket. I said, no, I don't have a ticket. He said, I take it you believe in miracles. I said, how'd you guess? I do believe in miracles. The guy said he was going to give me, not give me, he said, I'll sell you my ticket. But then the line had started moving and it was still kind of long and it stopped. And so I asked the lady, I said, is everybody getting in that's in this line? She said, I'm not going to lie to you. She said, it's full. We're almost full now. I said, uh-oh. So then I said, well, let me get out at the end of this line. Let me go walk near the front. And I went near the front. They were only letting people in 5 at a time because they were literally almost full. And a lady was sitting there getting her rest. And when she saw she was in the next 5, she got up to get in line. And she turned to me. She said, you were behind me. She said, where did you go? I was looking all over. She grabbed me by the hand and brought me in line. That was the last 5 that got into the into the theater to see the, I said, God, here you go again, See, my reason for believing that Michael is totally innocent, I mean, I was there and I was an eyewitness, but I know, I mean, just so many things have happened, spiritually have happened, to let me know that God is not on the side of somebody who would hurt a child. God is usually on the side of someone who's trying to do good, and evil is always present. And I just got that confirmation just going to Sundance that God is not only on Michael's side, but he's still on his side. I got in there to see that documentary when people who had tickets didn't even get in. So, it's like, here we go again. I believe that Michael is innocent. I believe God is on his side. And I know God is not on the side of somebody that would hurt a child. But when I saw the document, okay, now to your original question. When I saw the documentary, it was very, I knew it was going to do some damage because it was very strategically put together. It was the filmmaking at its finest. I said, anytime you go dig up somebody's mama and they grandmama, you trying to do some damage. You're the one that's trying to do the manipulating. They had all of that. And it seemed like that right when Wade was really, telling his little sad lie story, and he was trying to conjure up a tear. And I could hear the music came in. I said, oh, no, they didn't. No, they didn't just do it like this. They took that lie and they telling this lie real good. But I was really appalled at this whole thing because it looked to me like I'm listening to people who were scripted, and not only scripted, but they were well versed in their lie. The lawsuit that they had against the estate, they didn't know that they were going to just get. You don't know that a judge is just going to throw your case out until he throws your case out. So you got to know that they were prepared even at the lawsuit stage. It's an attorney's job to prepare the client, the witness, so to speak. And so, when we have clients that's getting ready to go to court, we call them into our office and we literally have a session with, the attorney does, where he's pretty much grooming them, letting them know what to and what not to say. So they were groomed for the lawsuit. They were groomed before this documentary. They already had their lies together. They already were groomed and knew what they were going to say. But this is the reason why they kicked the case out in the case that they had. Everybody is saying it was because of the statute. And you had a very good investigator on your program that gave some very good information. They didn't kick the case out just because of the statute of limitation. They found loopholes around it to keep it going, or to still interject. They kicked it out because of their inconsistencies in their story. The judge declared them as perjurers, and they just, the judge is like, this will never see the light of day. And so he kicked it out mainly because of that. They found out through the discovery stage, they found out that they were searching other stories and they were mimicking their story to be like the story. That's why when you look at the documentary, you say, oh, that's just like this case. Well, yes, it's like that case because they found out through the litigation of the lawsuit that they were searching other stories and they were mimicking them to make it seem like there was a pattern. But in discovery, they were able to tell that they were doing that because they were able to get copies of their emails, and that's where they found that out at.
Wow, wow. And I've even heard that they were mimicking stories out of that fake, disgusting book about Michael, but by that author, what is his name? Victor Gutierrez. The Michael Jackson Was My Lover, based upon Jordan Chandler, which wasn't even true.
Right.
About a diary that he found or something like that. And Michael ended up suing and he won. And the guy never paid the money. He flew the country, the country, and that was that
lie, that proven lie. But Jordy, the only time to my recollection that Jordy Chandler made those accusations against Michael was when he was 13 years old. He was told what to say. I don't buy the phenobarbital theory because when you're making up a lie, you have to have all elements of that lie made up too. And I believe that phenobarbital theory where they put him under and then he supposedly said no, that was how they said they found out. We found that boy in my attorney's office one day behind closed door. And Evan Chandler was not in there, he was only in there with my attorney. And my attorney was the kind of person where, he was very explosive if you didn't follow. And he had a rule, don't open up his door unless you got to knock first and then wait for him to say open. And one day I was really angry with him. He went off on me or something like that. And so just to piss him off, I just opened it. I was ready to go home for the day. And I knew that was going to get him. But when I opened up the door, I saw Jordy Chandler in the back of his office and he looked kind of startled I just looked and saw him. And of course he blew up at me for that, but I'll never forget that I saw him in there and the father was not in there. And I really do believe that was the meeting that my attorney had with him where he was literally telling him what he needed to say.
Wow. Did you ever hear Jordan Chandler say anything where like he's admitting it or anything like that? Like,
I never heard him say anything. As a matter of fact, while they were meeting behind closed doors, he kept coming out. He was watching me. I type over 100 words a minute. I was sitting there just lighting up the keyboard, and so he had something, earphone. Like I don't know whether it was a radio, but he had earphone. But I thought that's what he was doing. But he was really watching me type, because he walked over and said something to me. And he just seemed so natural. He seemed like a normal, natural kid. He didn't seem like anyone who had been going through had just, been subjected to anything really harmful. The one that was like that was his father, because Evan Chandler was totally unglued. And Jordy kept going into the conference room like he was calming his dad, like telling dad, calm down. And, he was the one calming his father. Evan Chandler was the one that was unglued at that time.
Wow. This is crazy. I'm trying to think what else I wanted to ask you. As far as, do you know the details when it came to like the settlement and the insurance company? Can you explain that as well? Are you well versed in that too?
Right. Only because I was on the inside. I knew all the elements that were going on during that time. They were once they launched the allegation. He got an attorney. I think it was Bertram Fields. Was it Bertram Fields? It was another one. I'm not quite sure what his name is. It's been a little while, y'all. My memory is like, wait a minute. But well, they got another attorney just for the lawsuit that they filed against Michael. It was a civil lawsuit. A civil lawsuit is only about money. You're trying to collect money damages. And when they launched the allegations against Michael, that was a criminal lawsuit. I mean, that was a criminal investigation that was ongoing. So Evan Chandler wanted to move forward with his civil money lawsuit while the criminal investigation. So they started filing motions with the court, and the motions that they filed, they won the motion to move forward with the civil case, which was unconstitutional because the laws concerning the civil case are not as strict as in the criminal. And see, if you allowed that civil case to go forward while the criminal still, all they have to do, the prosecutor has to do is just sit back and watch the evidence that are coming in civilly that they never could have brought in criminally. And then that incriminates Michael. So then that's why it's against his constitution, but they won on that motion. Another motion that they won on, they claim preference. Preference has to do with, either you're too young and your memory is not that good, or you're too old and your memory can go anytime. And you can rush to court a case on preference but those are the basis for it. They won on that motion. Jordy Chandler was 13 years old at the time. That was no child with a limited memory. And so it was two very important motions that they submitted and Michael did not win on. So whenever, a good attorney is going to tell you, well, it looks like that the judge is not really ruling in our favor. And then their recommendation is, should we go on and proceed to trial, knowing he's already telling us he's not ruling in our favor. And so at that time, they made a decision about settling. That's when Johnny Cochran came in. Johnny Cochran was the greatest. You can't say enough about. He was just an amazing attorney. But Johnny Cochran started out a PI attorney. PI is all about settling. You're not trying to take a PI case to court ever. If you can come up, give us enough money, we're out of here. And so he was an expert on settling. When Johnny came on board, his first attack or his first strategy was to find out if he could get the insurance company to pay the settlement. And he went back and forth. We were privy to, a lot of information that was going on concerning the settlement. And he asked, he was asking them to pay it. At first they said no. Then he finally, some kind of way, he convinced them. And when it wasn't until the insurance company finally said that they were going to settle the case, that they finally said, we're settling. And they announced that they're settling. I know it's a lot of stories out there that Michael was made to settle. You can't make a client settle a case. You cannot make them. You can't even coerce them. They're now, when settlements are made, they will even ask the client, did someone make you do, did someone, they want to make sure that this settlement. So I know I've heard the stories out there. I'm telling you what I saw on the inside. He was not made to settle. He was probably convinced by his attorney, who probably convinced him that it's not, the tide is not in our favor. Maybe it's our best. And this is another point. On the inside, the only thing that they were flooding our office with were discovery. And the only thing they were looking for was Michael's money. Where is his money? They wanted to find out where his money was at, how much money he had. And, under those circumstances, I would have said settle too. Though there was more than one reason, but they all worked together, and it just made for better sense for Michael to go on. And he was highly advised by a great attorney, go on and settle this. This is not going to look good. Not that he couldn't win it, but what he had to go through just to continue with it, he was probably advised by his attorney that he didn't want to go through that. And then they went on and settled it.
Wow. Do you think Evan Chandler, we all know he committed suicide in New Jersey, in a New Jersey motel or hotel. Do you think he killed himself out of guilt? What do you think? Same year as Michael, by the way.
I don't think Evan killed himself. If you're going to ask me, he died. Let's put it like this. He died only 5 months after Michael died. I don't know. They said he killed himself. I don't know about that one.
Interesting.
But he did die 5 months after Michael died. So You know, but let's go with the story at hand. You asked me, don't be asking me if you don't want to know what I think.
No. We're curious.
Ask me, Nicole.
Some folks have asked in the chat room. Did you think?
They said that he committed suicide, so we'll go with that. He was sick. He was sick. He had some kind of injury that had caused him a lot of pain. It's called guilt. No,
yeah, that's a symptom. Yeah.
But prior to that, they said he had like 5 cosmetic surgeries on his face to disguise himself. You know, he wanted the money. He wanted the $20 million so he could make a film, so that he could be the successful filmmaker. You know, he never had it. He never got it like that. The reason he didn't get it like that is because when the judge accepted the settlement, 2 things happened with that when he decided to settle. Number one, they made him drop the extortion claim. They had countered with the extortion claim. They were going after him with the charge of extortion. And so one of the terms of the settlement was that he had to drop his extortion claim. That's why you haven't heard this story yet. That's why some people have, a few people have. If you've read my book, you know the claim, you know the extortion charge from top to bottom. But that's why mainly the public has not heard it, because they made him drop the claim. And the other thing that happened as a result of the settlement, wait a minute, don't tell me I didn't forgot already. It was 2 points I was going to make. One was that they made him drop it, and the other one was, oh, Nicole, I lost my point. I elaborate. I'll think of it, but there was another point I wanted to make concerning the settlement. If I think of it, I'll come back to there.
Okay. Wow. Interesting. What else I was going to ask you? I'm going blank too. But what do you guys, if you guys have any quick questions before Ms. Hughes has to go ahead and put them in the chat room. I'm trying to see if we have any questions for Ms. Hughes. I'll give you guys a chance, because I'm always running my mouth. So
no, you're good. It's good. You come up with some good questions.
Oh, thank you. Someone says, Nina Black says, do you know the status of the lawsuit against HBO? But you don't work with the state, so I don't know if you know that. But
I just said they filed a $100 million lawsuit. They're getting ready to bring up that they're getting ready to prove their case now of slander. They're getting ready to go on trial now through the estate. They never gave them the opportunity to rebut that documentary because that wasn't their purpose. We're in a time right now where lies fly and they sell. It doesn't make any sense that a man who was found not guilty, and I promise you, Tom Snedden was trying to get Michael, and he was trying to nail him for one reason only, because he wanted to prove he was right. Mm-hmm. He spent millions of taxpayer dollars trying to prove it before, and they couldn't. The other point that needs to be made is people think just because this might have been my other point. People think just because he settled that case in '93 that made it where they couldn't come after him criminally. That is incorrect. We live in a state where you can go after justice and then turn around and go after the money too. It's not an either or, neither nor theory. The reason he was never criminally charged in '93 is because all they had was a boy saying he did this. They had nothing to corroborate. Out of all those hundreds of witnesses, they went all out of the country. They deposed people. They did an investigation was conducted by the Los Angeles police, by the Los Angeles sheriff, by the Santa Barbara police, by the Santa Barbara sheriff. And we later found out that it was an FBI probe that went on for about 10 years that came up with nothing. If you're really a child molester or someone that has hurt someone or has done any damage to someone, you don't go through all of that and still walk out of a courtroom of 14 charges. Most of them were both. This was the most bold. That second case, the Alviso, That never should have happened. That was so bogus. It was not. You found the most bogus claim you could, let me put it like this. You found the most bozo claim that you could find. I had to put it like that. You found bimbo, and and you are a skilled prosecutor, and you went and found a bogus claim to come against a man who had been cleared, or to the point that they couldn't even charge him. And then you say, oh, we're going to arrest him now. No, you wanted to humiliate him by arresting him. He already knew that he wasn't going to be able to prove that case because he knew that mama was a nutcase, and they were trying to claim Michael had kidnapped them. Well, how did he kidnap you when you was going to get your nails done every day? You was just living the life of luxury, really? And so it was just the craziest thing ever. And what they weren't telling you, and the only reason why we knew they wouldn't allow the cameras in the courtroom, what they were not telling you is that one of the fans was literally buying the transcripts every day and posting them. We were reading the transcripts. Michael was winning that case from the very first prosecution witness. You usually don't start winning your case until you start putting on your case from the defense. Michael was winning that case from the very first prosecution witness. That's why we were not surprised when he walked out of the courtroom. We knew he was winning. Snedden knew he didn't have a case. I believe the only reason why Snedden had him arrested and brought him up under these charges was to humiliate Michael Jackson, was to say, ha, I was right. Well, he knew he wasn't right. The only thing that makes sense was that it was just to humiliate Michael Jackson, and that was it. Because he knew, and then he saved the mother. Remember, who was it that said, you put your best witness up front? He saved that mother almost to the end because he knew as soon as she got on the stand, Bimbo was going to come out. Bozo was going to come out. All these derangedness, all these different personalities. He knew what he was up against. He put that mother on almost last. And the media did not change their stance until they heard what mom had to say. And then the media finally realized, this was your best witness? this was it?
I heard she was a straight clown. Yeah, I did.
That man knew what he was doing. God rest his soul. He's no longer here, but you don't mess with God's anointed. You don't mess with people that are really trying to do good and make a difference in life and think that you're the end of your life. He died a very painful, all the pain he gave Michael, he died. See, Michael didn't go like that. He went very painfully. I think I heard he had brain cancer. That's a very painful death. He all the pain he gave Michael Jackson, he got it 10 times greater in his legal deserves. So, you got to be careful how you do, and I caution anybody who's trying to slander Michael, trying to, I'm looking straight in this camera. I have no doubt in my heart, Michael Jackson was never a child molester. He had way too many kids around him, and that the only 4 that are trying to claim him to be that, none of them went after justice. All of them were only going after money. And that was their motive,
Yeah, this is because I know you got to go. This will be my last question. I'm sorry, guys. She has to go. I know you have some things to do. But as far as the extortion tape, someone brought that up. What did you guys get out of that? Were you was a lawyer at the time freaking out when that was revealed to the media and and everybody?
I think that tape pretty much says it all, because that tape was in Evan Chandler's. That was a conversation that Evan had with David Schwartz. Evan had a reputation of being, they said later that he was diagnosed as being bipolar. He was violent. He was a very violent man, and there was some issue going on with David, and, he's now married to June. And I think Evan even attacked him at one time and would threaten to kill everybody on the phone. So David had said the next time he talks to Evan, he's gonna make sure he tape records their conversations, because Evan had threatened to kill the whole family. So that's where that tape came from. He was taping it out of fear, just to wanted to catch him saying something stupid. And he started literally opening up about, so he didn't know he was being taped. He was being very candid. He was being very honest about his intention, about how the parts that stuck out in that tape to me, he said, I'm going according to a plan. This is a plan, he said, and I've got the meanest, the nastiest attorney who's just waiting to destroy everybody. Why would you get an attorney who's mean and nasty if it's not to do something that's illegal or unlawful? Let's put it like that, okay? Mm-hmm. And so though he's expressing his motive, he said, if I don't get what I'm looking for, I'm going to destroy him. That's his admission of the extortion. That's extortion at its finest, And so, we ignored that tape. We just, it did do him some damage, but the lie was out there, and everybody was, willing to believe the lie, but we ignored that man admitting what his plan was, what he was planning to do. And if he didn't get the money that he had been negotiating a month prior, what he was going to do if he didn't get the money to make the film. I thought about my other point was regarding the settlement. When they decided to do the settlement, the judge, thank you, Judge. The judge made himself the executor of Jordy's estate, had them put that money into a bank account, and Jordy was not able to touch that money until he was 18. So the judge made sure that money did not get into any of the parents' hands. So what Evan had planned to do was to extort that money so he could make a film. That's the one thing that the judge did do to make sure that money did not. And so he never got the money to make the film. Whatever his plan was, it never worked out like that. He had to literally be in isolation. Jordy is kind of living like that too. And Jordy only one time made that accusation. Jordy has never made that allegation or accusation against Michael Jackson since. When they were going through the trial, someone called my publisher and he put me in touch with her. And it was a girl that was going to school with Jordy Chandler. And she came to tell me, she said, he's telling her that Michael did nothing. And she wanted to talk to someone. She wanted to know, I need to talk to someone. Jordy Chandler is telling me that Michael never did anything to him. And then when they had the trial in 2005, they never called Jordy Chandler. Snett knew better. We had heard Jordy was admitting that Michael never did anything. So he was nowhere to be found. They could have subpoenaed him. You could subpoena. I heard somebody in a rebuttal say you could subpoena a dog if if he can bark. Right. He can bark. The power of the subpoena is not whether you want to come, but if they want you to come and you get that subpoena. Jordy Chandler has never repeated those accusations, and he has made it his business that he's taken nobody's stand. He's talking to nobody. I'm saying nothing other than this young lady who called me and told me he was telling her Michael did nothing.
And last, as we exit this, Oprah, folks want to know.
You had to go there, didn't you?
So they were begging in the chat room. Ask her about Oprah before she go.
Oprah. When I released my book, it was in 2003. It was on the heels of our press release came out in November 2003. We didn't know anything about they were getting ready to come after Michael the second time, but they didn't know we was coming out with the book. Snedden was trying to say, ha, he did it again. Because anybody knows anything about a pedophile, you don't strike once. And you don't strike once every 10 years. He didn't know that part, but he was trying to prove, well, he did it again, but he didn't know. We were coming out to say he didn't do it the first time. And so we both struck in the same month, and there go the media frenzy again. And it was so much that went on during that time. But the one thing that, when we decided to release the book was pretty much, letting people know that Michael Jackson was not a child molester. And he was so busy trying to say that he was. Wait, did I lose my point? write these points down. What was you asking me?
It was about Oprah.
Oh, Oprah. Oh, yeah, Oprah. Thank you.
It's
And
okay.
so the fans, when they found out about the book, they were buying. My book was selling all over the world. They wanted Oprah. They wanted me to go on Oprah. The fans were sending me all over the world to declare Michael's innocence. So everywhere I went, they wanted specifically for me to go on Oprah. So what they were doing, they were buying 2 books. They kept one. They were sending Oprah. The other copy they were sending to Oprah and writing and saying, "Have Mrs. Hughes come." Oprah never responded, not to one inquiry. And what we were wanting Oprah to do was to do a show about people being falsely accused, because that's the case here. This is, I did some research. I actually was writing a second book, and I did some research and found out that there's more people incarcerated behind false allegations. And so that was the only thing we were asking. Oprah Winfrey would be fair. And all through the trial, she kept airing shows about Michael was on trial fighting for his life while she's airing shows about pedophiles. And to be a fair journalist, she should have been airing shows. She should at least dedicate a show to being falsely accused. But we just believe, we found out from that she never responded, and the way she was airing all these shows, that we felt that Oprah really felt Michael was guilty all along. And she's now just really proven her position now. And there's some sources out there that even think that Oprah might be responsible for the HBO documentary. So yes, I'm going to put that out there too, because what she's doing is so not fair. To make a comment that you want to destroy somebody's legacy. Come on, what's real? Who's really? And then you're all kissed up with Weinstein, who's also on trial right now as we speak, and no one's talking about it right now. So, either you're a hypocrite, Oprah, or there's something really wrong going on. She's not a fair journalist, because if you were a fair journalist, Oprah, you would at least give some platform for people being falsely accused. Michael Jackson was falsely accused. If you look at his track record, you look at what I wanted to include him in my book. So I wanted to do I had to do some research. When I finished doing my research on Michael Jackson, I found out, and this one brought me to tears. I found out that, every time he went to a country to do a show, he always made his people find hospitals. And he wouldn't even say yes until they could identify different hospitals, so that when he wasn't in concert, he would go to those hospitals. He would visit the kids. And we saw the pictures of him being in many hospitals, while he was on tour. And he'd visit the kids. Tom Mesereau, I met him after the trial, and he told me, he said, they kicked the last African-American off of his jury. And Tom told me, he said he wasn't worried about it, because he went to Santa Barbara and found a local tavern and sat in there and started talking to the town people where Michael lived. And he said those people were telling him how Michael went into the hospitals where they live and was paying those hospital bills for those children. This isn't you can't be good and evil. You're either good or you're evil. I have not turned a light on and off, and I can't get dark and light. You're either dark or you're light. And I leave you with this, because, God is the one that designed us, and he knows how we're wired. The Bible says you judge a tree by its fruit. How can a tree be a good tree if it's bearing bad fruit? But how can it be bad if it's bearing good fruit? Michael was bearing nothing but good fruit. And the only thing that I think happened is that somebody is so jealous of the success, not only of his success, they're jealous of the good that he was doing. They're jealous of the response of people all over the world that just, I started meeting his fans, and they're people that nobody probably would have paid them any attention. And they said Michael used to reach out to them, made them feel worthwhile, and made their life meaningful. That's a good person, And so all I have to say is that if you don't know whether he's innocent or guilty, look at his fruit. Judge him by his fruit. He didn't have to go through that body search. It was the most humiliating. I've never known anyone where they came and took pictures of his privates. He came on the camera, on the news, on a press report, and he said the only reason I did that because I wanted to prove my innocence. So, you got to listen to this man. And if you're sitting up there saying that he's guilty and he is not guilty, then now you got another problem on your hand. His name is God, and he's a judge. And if you go back and look at the original 10 commandments, oh, you don't have to be following everything in the Bible. Go to the original 10 commandments and see if there isn't a commandment that says, thou shalt not bear false witnesses. So if you're bearing false witnesses, the problem you got on your hand, Michael ain't your problem. You now got God. God is your problem now because you're bearing false witness.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. And I know you have to go. You guys make sure if you have not bought her book, it's on Amazon, right, Miss Hughes?
Amazon, yes.
Absolutely. And I know in the future you're thinking about doing a movie on this book, and I hope it happens. So
we're in the process of doing a movie. I want the truth to go all over the world, just like the lie did. People need to see what they did to Michael. They crucified an innocent man. They cost him his life, but he's more alive now than he was before. So all they're doing with this lie is just making him alive all over again. And everybody that loves him, everybody that supports him, and everybody that knows that he's innocent are rallying to his defense. So, Michael wrote some songs called You're Not Alone. We're here to let Michael know he's not alone. He wrote some songs, you just listen to his songs. They were telling us they had messages in them. And so just keep his music alive. Let's keep his legacy alive, and let's keep letting people know who he really was, and not this lie that perpetrators came and perpetrated, money grubbing perpetrators came and perpetrated against him.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Ms. Hughes, I thank you. I thank you so much for gracing my channel with everything that you know, the truth. As I said, I created this platform for the truth, and we're going to get the truth when it comes to this. So I thank all of you for joining me today on Nicole's View Live, and I will see you all in the next video. Please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this. We need to be sharing this all over social media. We need to get the truth out. So thank you guys. Thank you so much, Ms. Hughes.
Thank you, Nicole. You're doing an awesome job getting the truth out. Thank you too.
Thank you. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you guys. Well, you have a great Sunday, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.